Hi, my name is Jessica Jackson of the Thriving in Motherhood podcast, and today I want to share with you what's working in our homeschooling this fall 2023. I've got 4 kids, a fourth grader, second, kindergarten, and preschooler, and we are always tweaking and changing our school based on what our needs are and just trying to make things a little bit better at a time. And so today I'm going to share the actual books and curriculum that are working for us, as well as how we've set up the environment to make it easy to do the things we want to do, because that really has been a big game changer for me in every aspect of my life, but especially homeschooling is making it so that there's less resistance based because our environment is just set up and ready to go. So if you are on iTunes, please take a moment and leave a review. It helps other moms find the show. I appreciate the feedback. Or on YouTube, would you please subscribe and follow along so that you can get every single video each week and we can stay connected that way.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast.
Along with homeschooling, I find that we are constantly going in and out of seasons that are hard and seasons that are going well, and it feels kind of like an up and down roller coaster. And so I've put together a checklist for you called the 5-step path from surviving to thriving that helps me know exactly where I am and where I need to focus my time and energy and attention when things are hard and when I'm working my way back to surviving. So whether you had sick kids and weren't sleeping for a few nights, or you went through daylight savings, or you had bigger things like a hard pregnancy or morning sickness. This checklist is a very practical, actionable, step-by-step plan to help empower you as a mom so that you don't have to wait for your circumstances to change before you start thriving. And you can find that at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/checklist. All right, so we're going to jump into what's working for our family this year, and we've made some changes. So if you watched my last video or podcast episode about our curriculum for last year, I had kind of worked things out so every kid was doing things individually. And that was kind of working when I had a third grader and a first grader and pre-K and happy to occupy themselves toddler. But I was kind of going crazy trying to manage 3 kids with 3 separate schedules, one of which is a complete, can read by themselves. The other one's pretty good at reading. The other one's learning to read. And the other one wants a whole lot of time, energy, and attention from me right now, which is great, but makes it very impractical to manage all of these individual book lists that we were using with Ambleside Online. Now, I still have a lot of those Ambleside Online books and resources in our home, and we're still doing them, but it just looks way different right now. So I want to start at maybe the back end of our day and walk you through a morning and what we are using, and also how we've set things up in our environment. So the very first thing is that at night, I have, and I've mentioned this before, maybe in our summer, we started doing this in our summer, priorities, was having my kids journal every single night. And this is something that we've continued doing because it's been a huge hit with so many benefits. So each of my older children have a notebook. It's about this big, and I just have them dictate to me what they want to write about in their day, and then I put it up on a whiteboard in their bedroom and they copy it. And they now don't necessarily need that, but because bedtime, I set them up and then I'm putting the little kids to bed, that allows them to be self-sufficient and not need me to come and be like, wait, how do you spell that word? And so they do that every single night, and I love it because they're building so many habits, like journaling and reflecting on their day and thinking about what happened. But also we're building those writing skills about things that matter to them. They get to decide how much they write. Sometimes it's lots and sometimes it's just a sentence. But either way, we have built this in so that every day they're writing something. And I am a firm believer that those little bits add up over time. And so no matter what happens during the day, I know that night they will have written something down. The other thing that we've started doing with they are, 8 and 10 now. 8 and 10-year-old is reading 7 Habits for Highly Effective Teens. Now, this isn't something that I would just hand a 7 and 10-year-old because it really does talk about some things that are meant for teenagers, things that we have not introduced to them yet. That doesn't need to be part of their, our day-to-day conversation with them yet. However, there is so much in here that is incredible. And so I read it aloud, just a section or two at a time, and we talk about it. And it's really planting some incredible ideas in their minds. And we're having amazing discussions, even at their age, that has been really empowering and impactful for them. This idea of being proactive. And there's little cartoons and there's poems in there. But this is a resource that I highly recommend because it just leads to so many great discussions. And lets me know what they're thinking about too. As right now we're reading about beginning with the end in mind and creating their goals and kind of figure out what they want, what kind of life they want to have. And so that's really interesting. And will it change and evolve? Absolutely. But I love that while they still want to talk to me about everything, we are starting to have these conversations. All right. So the next morning we get up and we do our breakfast and we sing our scripture songs, which I've recorded one of those, or a lot of our scripture songs with my oldest child, and that you can access below, and I'll put that in the resources. But we practice and we sing our scripture songs from our scripture memory box, and we do our kitchen job. So everyone has a cleaning routine and that we do in the morning together. So our kitchen's spick and span. And around 9 o'clock is when we meet and we do some family subjects. Now, this is something that has been a big shift from previously because I am putting a lot more emphasis on doing things together. So I've got all of these resources to the side. We'll see how seamless this goes. So the first thing that we started doing this year that we are absolutely loving and that I've never done consistently or really intentionally before beyond checking out books from the library to just read haphazardly is this science curriculum. It's called Science in the Beginning by Dr. Jay Weil. And I cannot recommend it enough. It is phenomenal. So it is broken up to be intentionally designed for your whole family. And it has one little exercise experiment every single day. And so far, we've gotten pretty far into it. And I haven't had to go, I've been able to find the thing that day. And they're really fun, little interesting activities that we get to do that everyone's excited about. And they're little things like you blow up a balloon and use static electricity to light up a light bulb with it. I mean, just interesting stuff. But then he has really in-depth principles that is written well, and he's talking to you in his writing. And they're concepts I didn't even get introduced to until high school and some of them college. So it's high level thinking stuff. And then it's broken up with little activities for the youngest kids, older kids, and the oldest kids. And then you get to kind of decide where your kids fit into that or if you just kind of build upon it. Now, what I loved about this is one area that we were quite weak as a family was notebooking. So we will read a lot of books together or we'll narrate things out loud, kind of discuss them sometimes. But this idea of having my kids sit and write or draw or something from what we were learning just really didn't happen very often. And so with the science curriculum, it's been great because we have made that part of the morning. So after we do this activity, I say, all right, guys, everyone pulls out a piece of paper. So we gather paper. I went and bought colored pencils that were slightly fancier at Walmart. So you've got the Crayola ones, and then there's for $2, and then these ones were $7, and the Prismacolor really nice pencils were $22. Okay, so I got the 7, not the 22, but they're wood on the outside, natural wood, and so they look just a little bit fancier. And so I was like, guys, these are our school pencils. They do not leave the schoolroom, which for some of you that might not be a problem. In our family, we cannot, everything leaves, but this one we've been really good this year. These are our school pencils. And so we pull out the very nice pencils, and we also went and we bought an electric pencil sharpener because one of the problems that we are constantly having is not sharp pencils for in any domain, colored or just regular. So we got a pencil sharpener, and it is on the table always. So right there, they can sharpen their pencils and they can do this project. So that has been game changer. So much fun. I do not enjoy curriculum. I do not enjoy following curriculum. This one I have nothing bad to say about. It has been just an absolute joy for a family. So our next thing then that we do is a math game. So I've got kids, different ages, different stages, different, degrees of math. But I found that we just all needed to kind of brush up on our math facts. And one of my kids in particular, really doesn't. But we've made it a family thing that's quite lovely. And so what I have absolutely loved is using Kate Snow's Facts That Stick. So this is the addition one. We've worked through the entire program already. We're on subtraction. I also bought the multiplication division one. And so what we do is we spend once a week, or on Monday, we'll sit and do the little lesson together. And I make sure to spend a little more time with my youngest child, who these concepts are new. And for my older children, this is less new because it goes along really well with Right Start Math. And so it teaches principles the same way as Right Start Math. And so for my older kids, the principles are there, but I also have kids that just really need help. Like some of these things are not sticking as well for all of my kids. And maybe they were doing okay, like they did okay with addition, but then when we went to subtraction, it started getting wonky. So anyway, so we play a game. So we do a little lesson at the first of the week, and then every day we play a game. So it's probably 4 days a week, honestly, but we play the same game for 4 days. All of my kids play together with me, and then they have a fact sheet that they do. And we have never been good at doing worksheets when it comes to math facts. They're super overwhelming, but because it's so targeted and broken down, and we start by playing this game, it is seamless and everyone loves it. It says you don't need to time your kids, especially the younger ones. If they're older, you can time them. Two of my kids enjoy that. And so I was timing them at first, but they actually both just got watches for their birthdays that have stopwatches on them. And so they have loved just that independence of being able to time themselves and do their math facts and tell me how fast they were just for fun, not because we care, but they have fun doing that. So that is our math. Now, we also in the morning, kind of depending on our day, and we kind of have like a ideal day that we do a couple days a week, maybe sometimes, or at least once a week. And then we have we haven't slept for 3 days and we're kind of surviving. We want to make sure we hit the most important things. So if we're not in a survival day, something that we like to do together is a picture study. And I've done lots of things. I've used the packets from Simply Charlotte Mason. This year, I just use Ambleside. Ambleside Online has a link of a picture study, and they've got a partnership with a Humble Place, and they just print out the pictures. So I just print it out in color on the printer. That resource. So Ambleside Online, if you go there, the Humble Place puts together the pictures. So we've just enjoyed looking through those. And we have so much fun. We do it kind of Charlotte Mason style. We do one a week and we look at them, and we just got to the end of our Vincent van Gogh study. And so we just kind of poured over all the pictures and noticed different things about them. And it's fun because it crops up in my kids' art and the things that they're working on. And so we enjoy that. We have also been doing language study. So we did French for a while because my daughter's interested in that, but I speak Spanish-ish. And so that's what I did in high school and college. And so that's where I am more aware of how to speak the language. It's easier for me. So we do French together and everyone laughs at my pronunciation. Then we do Spanish and I try and talk it more often. And so what I've done is we found Mango. It's through our library. We've got free access. I think a lot of libraries provide that service. And we use Spanish and I love it. It's like actual curriculum for the language study. It's very logical, it's methodical, and it's verbal. And so my little kids, they pick on it really well, as opposed to Duolingo, which jumps around and you've got so many things happening. So we've really enjoyed that. I've also been pretty consistent about finding it library sales, just Spanish books. So we've got your first 1,000 words in Spanish, which my little girls love because they love to find the pictures. We practice saying the words. I also found this Lift the Flap book. I doubt it's even being sold anymore. It looks like it's been around for a while. But it's great because it's got the word in Spanish and you flip it down in English, but they're useful vocabulary words and conversation starters. So I just try to consistently gather basic language resources that we can mix into our regular life, but I would say that's something that kind of ebbs and flows in our day and is not quite as consistent as I would like to be. Then we are probably splitting off. Picture studies, math, science. Okay. The other thing that we do is, so we still do history together, and we've been doing Story of the World, listening to that on audiobook. Not so much. We did that more at the beginning of this semester. And then we kind of started mapping things out because we deep dived. We just got really fascinated with Queen Elizabeth and James and Mary, Queen of Scots. And so we just kind of been deep diving and going to the library and checking out more books about them and mapping out the history. And then I started reading a book about Henry VIII and all of his wives. And then I was just telling that to my kids after I would read every night for a couple hours. I'd go tell them about it. So history for us has become a little bit more organic. And it's also been something kind of our world history. We have also been really working on just a small piece of U.S. history. I found at the dollar store at the beginning of the year, they had these posters of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and the Preamble and Star Spangled Banner. And so I just bought that for $1 and popped one on my wall. And we've been just working on memorizing those. And so we memorized the Preamble using the School of our Schoolhouse Rock song, and just working on that with them. So we kind of just have this ongoing thing. And then the other thing that we've been working on is just, again, this is what I did when my kids were little. And then I kind of took a break and tried to be really focused and follow the study schedule with Ambleside. And I'm finding, especially with my young kids, reading aloud chapter books is just not happening right now at all successfully. And so we're just in one of those seasons. We'll leave it again, but right now it's not working. And so we've been going to the library every week. We've got a maxed out library card of 50 books every week. And I am pretty intentional about just going through and grabbing biographies and grabbing some histories and grabbing some picture, but all like picture books that we can just sit and read together and have discussions about. And so our history is a little bit more all over the place, but we're still having like really good discussions. And it's also my older kids are also reading a ton themselves. I'll share more about that in a minute. And so they're getting a lot of history other ways as well. But that's what it looks like for us as a family. So after we do this, our family things together, we split off and we do what we call morning time with mom. And that's where I'm doing one-on-one with each child. So my youngest daughter loves to play games. So we've got like a Barney game that I had when I was a child that teaches emotional intelligence, where we just practice like, this is what a happy face and a sad face looks like, but it's a board game. And then Busy Town is her other favorite, which is fun because we're finding things and counting them. I'll try and find a link. This is one of my all-time favorite games. We've had it with all 4 kids and I've never gotten tired of it, which is like sort of impossible for kids games. So this one's a fun one, but it really helps strengthen her counting. We still do some of those letter stories that I shared in the previous homeschooling video that I shared. So kind of just a variety with her. We play Spotted a lot. So lots of little just games with her and Go Fish. And sometimes my kindergartner will also join us or it'll blend. Now for her morning time, my kindergartner, we are doing what I've shared before. We love the Right Start Math that I'm doing with her. And we love doing the All About Reading. All About Reading, level 1. She's working through that program. And so I will check, what I'll do is I check the math sheet that she did that she was kind of working on her own, and then doing some reading with her and some math with her. Maybe not both every day at that age, just kind of focusing on one. Each time I set the timer for about 12 to 15 minutes, and then that's what they each get. Now, while they're doing that, my older kids are practicing piano. We use Hoffman Academy or a string instrument. My son's playing the cello, and they're doing that independently. And then they also have their own things that they are working on doing more themselves. And then their morning time with me is me checking them. So environmentally, how did we pull this off? Because we've really struggled with this. I have loved this solution. So I bought each of my kids these backpacks. I'll leave a link to Amazon where I found them if you're interested. But I love them. They're not very big, but just big enough. And I love that because it can't get too heavy and everything fits in there pretty well. So in this bottom pocket, because again, how do we make it easy to do? I feel like they always come with something, but we keep pencils just here in this front pocket so that they have no excuse not to be able to write. And then in this pocket up here, we keep their notebooks. Now we actually made these. So the beginning of the year, we looked up some resources and learned how to sew notebooks and do our own binding. Here, I'll show you one right here. Right here. We learned how to sew notebooks, do our own stitching, and all of my kids stitched from the youngest to the oldest, stitched notebooks. And I was able to get enough for all of us. And I printed them out in Canva and just kind of made up the inside pages. Some are lined, some are blank. And then I sewed these covers as well. And just pretty quick stitching. I just went to Walmart, because it's 5 minutes away. Everything else is 30 minutes away, but we've got a Walmart 5 minutes away. And just stitch these notebook covers. You can get them. Juniper Grove Journal sells these, and they're like, I don't know, $50 or $60 each. But I was able to get the supplies for all 5 of us to have all of our notebooks and the covers for less than $50. So, and it was like a really fun activity. They all loved making them. So it was kind of like our handicraft for a couple weeks. So that's what we did. And what's great is at the front, they've got a planner that we've made, a personal planner. And so I can sit down every night with them or in the morning and write out what they need to do. And let's see. So this is really, really, really helpful because I've got kids that need checklists. Now I'm already looking at a different solution for some of the routines. So this was we knew this was just a test one, but I've kind of got the routine up here. Again, I'm thinking about switching that up. I've got their learning routines, what they need to do here. So I write out what they need to do for their math, for the reading, they're practicing all their independent stuff, and then their chore and evening. So this isn't a work in progress, but the key thing here is that they do have their checklist right here in a notebook. And again, we're going to simplify that a little bit more to make it easier to use, because they're not pulling out these things right first thing in the morning. They're pulling them out when they do school. So it's just be school in there. Okay, so we've got other notebooks in there. And if you want more about this notebook system, let me know and I will make a whole separate thing on that. Now we've got in their main pocket, I've got their actual resources. So I've got their binder in here that I put together a while ago, and this is where they have their math curriculum as well as some other things. But I have been loving Research Parents Minimalist Math Curriculum. It is phenomenal. What she's done is like looked at tons of homeschooling math curriculums and then has one problem a week in each of the different areas. And so I've just been having, instead of doing, and the idea is that you do 10 problems a week. Now I've been doing with each kid a worksheet a day, and then we're kind of going in and working on what they're not understanding. And I suspect we'll start, and part of it's because they're still like cruising. We haven't like hit resistance yet, but they're starting to hit some things they don't know. And so I'm slowing down and working through things with them. And it is so fun. And the other thing is like, I'm noticing that, hey, they all need to learn more about weights and measurements. And so I've gotten a bunch of books from the library about weights and measurements. And I found a cool book myself about the history of measuring in America. And it's absolutely fascinating. And so like kind of supplementing that way. So that is what we're doing for my older two ones. I don't know that we'll always do this, but that's what's working right now because it's not overwhelming. I need them to be independent and I need us not to be totally stalled. So that is our math. And then for my son with reading, for each of my kids. So my youngest one, the kindergartner, is doing all about reading. My son, I went and got a ton of the Good and the Beautiful library books. Now I don't love their curriculum for like third grade and under. I don't find like it's needful for me personally, but their books are good. And so he's been reading aloud to me these books and his reading's getting really good. I like him being able to read aloud and for me to see where he's at on that. So we're just working through those, and I've got a bunch of different levels, and that is his. For my daughter, I went ahead and looked again. I look every few years, but they've recently re-updated their language arts curriculum, and I looked at the 4th grade one, and that one's totally different because it's got writing workshops and spelling workshops, as well as like, I don't know, just it's what she needs right now. And so for me, that is a hole that I'm filling with this. We used the free resource for quite a while, and I just printed out every day what she needed. And then I got tired of that and decided to just buy it and have it sent to the house. So that one is working really well for us right now. Okay, so each of my kids has their backpack hanging up behind their door on a hook. I bought these wood hooks I can link to as well. But they all have it right behind their doors, so I know where it is. And the great thing is that then I can do their one-on-one time in the room, or if it's a nice day, I can go outside with them, or if I'm like finding them that they are just like hanging out downstairs, I'll just bring their backpack down and join them. And then we're really working on that habit of like, okay, you clean this up, you put it away, you need to know where your things are. And that's been going really well. It's taken us some time to grow into that, but it's been working really well. Now, I would say the last thing that is just going great for us is I have loads of books that my kids are reading right now. So I went to the library book sale and we stocked up on those like, less than $1 books. I've been going to Goodwill a lot, stocking up on good books. And then we had a community event that I didn't know about until this year, but you can go get any book you want for free, up to 100 books per person per day. And we did not do that, but we got like maybe 30 and really good books. So if you want me to share our favorite children's books, let me know. I can do a separate episode on that. But ones that we've really been enjoying are the great illustrated classics. My daughter has read, and my son has read a lot of those, as well as the classic start books. They're kind of, it's a similar idea, but she has devoured those. And then we have so many books, but we're kind of hitting our limit. So I will do maybe another episode about loads of great children's books, as well as we're still heavily using Libby, like the library audio book system, or Hoopla. Some of their favorites currently have been Little Women. That's been listened to on repeat a bazillion times. 5 Little Peppers and How They Grew. Anyway, we've got so many books that they love. But and then because I have a lot of the Ambleside books and I've gathered lots of these history books, like last night my daughter was reading one about Egypt and the different Egypt myths and things that it's on a lot of reading lists. It's something we never read aloud, but she's just really enjoying that. And so we found that just having a lot of good books around the house, we've got some upstairs, and I got a circular bookcase downstairs that I've loaded up with history books. And so Well, actually, lots of nonfiction resources with science and history, 7 Habits for Kids, drawing books, like just loads of activities down there. So that first of all, it's kind of fun because it changes, so you don't see everything all the time. And so I can just like kind of shift it around, or they shift it around and find more things that they're interested in reading and looking at. We got things about the 7 wonders of the ancient world and history and timeline books. So we've got all that set up. And then we also have a project space now for each of my children to be able to put the project they're working on so that we can clean off the homeschool table. Because the thing that I've realized, like this is like my secret to consistency that I didn't know I needed, is that when I have a reset space, when the homeschool room is cleaned up, ready to go from the night before or in the morning, if it's completely reset before we start school, it's easy to do. If we still have a mess in that space from the day before, it is so much harder. And day after day, it becomes harder and harder and harder to get into things because it's just harder to do the things we want to do. And so I used to not place a great emphasis on cleaning up or tidying. We do it once a week. And sometimes we still do that because life's crazy. But what I have found is that if we make it a priority to clean up, even if that means we do less, even if that means we get to less stuff. And I'd say that was more the thing. It's less about like, I don't like cleaning up, and more like, no, because I want to read all the books and I want to do all the projects. And I want to listen to the narrations and I want to do the drawing and the notebooking, the nature study and all the things. But what I've found is that when we slow down and maybe do a little bit less, but spend some time cleaning, that we are able to do more consistently day after day. And that adds up and gets us way farther instead of just running until we burn out. Now, I'd say there's one other thing that we've been doing as a family, like in relation to those notebooks. So we're keeping a family book of centuries. We're keeping nature notebooking together about once a week. We find something in nature and bring it in. We found, like, my kids have found amazing feathers, and we had to figure out what kind of bird it was by sleuthing and looking up a bunch of things about feathers. We found out it was a woodpecker, and drawing woodpecker feather. We found butterfly wings. We found and butterflies that have died that we've nature journaled. Bees. We found a bird's nest. So just like kind of bringing the outside in and drying it has been really fun. So lots of resources, but I think the principles here is you just kind of do one thing at a time. We see what's working, we see what's not working, we continue to tweak and change and build. Like, things have changed so much for us and based on what each of my kids needs right now in this season. But we've been able to keep it something that's fun and something that's working for us, and something that everybody can enjoy. So again, if you haven't yet, head over to thrivingandmotherhoodpodcast.com/checklist to get the 5-step path from surviving to thriving, to really empower you to know where to focus your time and energy when things are hard. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next week. Today's episode is brought to you by the Thriving in Motherhood Journal. This is my go-to tool to completely change how you will experience motherhood. I created it during some really hard seasons in my life to change how I was thinking about my life and to bring more meaning, fulfillment, and joy into the everyday, and including the really hard days. This is based in the latest research of positive psychology, high performance habits, cognitive behavioral therapy, gratitude research, as well as some scriptures from the Bible to bring in a spiritual element as well. And as you learn to ask these questions to yourself, it changes how you see your day. It changes what you focus on. And as you change your focus, you will find that you are feeling so much more joy. You can learn more today at thrivingandmotherhoodpodcast.com/journal. Watch the blossoms grow.